Some time ago, we were fortunate to have a phone interview with artist David Dees, an incredibly prolific illustrator whose work has been featured in numerous publications, political documentaries, and recently, a new book entitled The Political Art of David Dees. Considered dangerous art, his work pervades the internet and is thought by some to be written with heavy conspiratorial innuendo and strong anti-Semitic undertones, while others see him as a voice for truth, raging against the machines of corporate, financial, and political oppression. I started the interview by asking David how his career as an artist began. David, welcome.
Hello, Eric. Thank you for inviting me. What got me in the arts? My father painted oil paintings, and I was very interested in drawing and painting from early on. Ended up going into pre-med, and I ordered a catalog from an art school, and when they sent it, the guy on the cover had magic markers, and he was illustrating a cheeseburger. And when I saw that was when I knew that I had a career, because I was fascinated, and I wanted to do cheeseburgers. Funny thing was, out of art school, I ended up in an art studio, and we illustrated advertising, ads for magazines, newspapers, posters, all the point-of-purchase displays you see in the stores for videos and all these different products. So I was actually illustrating cheeseburgers and doing all the cartoons that you would see around. And that was in the 80s. And then, it went kind of like this. I went from the East Coast over to L.A. and then got an agent and started working in the movie industry and doing a lot of video covers and point-of-purchase store displays for Paramount and all the movie studios there in Hollywood. Go ahead.
Did you study back east?
Where did I study?
Yeah.
I went to the Art Institute of Atlanta, but I can say that I don't know how much they taught me, but they did, they did give me projects to do. I was there for a year and a half. I really had such a big attitude. I was like, who's paying me to do these? I was ready to go out and work. I didn't care that I couldn't do it. I just knew I could. I had I wasn't arrogant, but I had a lot of confidence when I probably shouldn't even have that much confidence. But I hear that there's musicians that are the same way. They say, just give me the job, I'll figure it out. That's how I was.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is for most artists, when they want to break into something.
Yeah, if it's in you, if you have that goal, I mean, there was guys that could draw much better than me, way better, but they didn't have the passion I did, so I went right past them. That's the way it is in anything. If you're persistent, you can achieve great things.
Doesn't matter how brilliant you are. If you can't deliver, you're not going anywhere, especially in L.A.
Oh, L.A., yeah. I made it in L.A., so that was a good thing.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in L.A., so I know what you're talking about. What's the motivation behind the work you do now? How did you get into this more controversial approach to geopolitical issues and concepts?
Good question. I never was particularly political or outspoken. The funny thing was is that after 9/11, I believed the whole story. And when we rolled into Iraq, I was cheering on, and one time I was even in a restaurant and there was a bunch of Navy men came in to eat, and they filled all the tables wearing their white uniforms. And I almost got teared up because I was thinking they're protecting our country, so I was rather, patriotic. And then 9/11, a couple of years after that, there was a website called Find the Boeing. And I looked at photographs showing the Pentagon. They said, do you believe a Boeing went through this hole in the side of the Pentagon? And I was shocked. I just studied. I blew up the photographs and looked at them, and I said, this is nuts. And I started showing my friends, and they were skeptical. And I said, no, wait, come on. And that's once I woke up, once I woke up, I got real angry. And when I saw what they could do with the media to sell this story to us, and as you unfold the 9/11 facts, you just go, this is outrageous. This is so blatantly obvious to me. And then I found that I had friends that I would argue with. Well, I would drop those friends and get new ones that, we could talk about. So discovering I was being lied to and wanting to tell people that. And the illustrations I do is to inform people, because I was never paid to do these, and people have the impression that somebody was paying me to do them. I did 500 pieces of this art, and while they were used for book covers, and I did get paid later, to just talk about and communicate these images was what drove them. And that's the way I like it. If you had to pay me, I probably wouldn't have had such freedom to go wild.
Yeah, well, the images are very intelligent. You've got a good sense of humor, and a lot of them are just really compelling.
Thanks. Well, I got a little where I was be kind of shocking and push the envelope a bit, and also be a little outrageous. So I guess it comes from my background in advertising. Wanting to show the viewer. I don't know. Wake them up. How's that?
Oh,
There's a new slogan I saw. Wake the flock up. And I'm going to use it for the new Sheeple magazine. It's going to be wake the flock up.
Well, 9/11, come on. Only three logical scenarios. One was we were totally blindsided and never saw it coming. And, I find that hard to believe. And if that's true, I'm done paying tax. Number two,
Right.
Number two, they knew it was coming and they just let it happen. And the other one is that we were complicit in the whole operation in some manner.
I guess one of the most popular art piece I did about 9/11 was the one that says jet fuel. That's a good one, and it's got Bush and Rumsfeld and Cheney all laughing their ass off as the buildings are coming down. I think you remember that one.
Yeah.
And that's one of the only ones you'll see a caption, because the rest of them, that wasn't even my idea. That was early on, and most every piece I do after that there was no caption on them. It was I tried to illustrate non-verbally. And I think that's the appeal of it. It's kind of a worldwide phenomenon that they get passed around in countries that don't speak English because there's no English on them.
I've noticed on your website you have kind of a disclaimer discussing Zionism. Maybe you could explain that a little bit.
It's a vast subject. I can't explain a little bit except to say that the research the subject of Zionism opposed to Judaism. Simplified, I guess you would say that the Zionists have taken over the religion of Judaism and hide behind it. Yeah, it's a really hard subject, but Zionism is a political movement. Well, Zionism, there's Christian Zionists and there's Islamic Zionists. It's a political philosophy. But what's happened is that they hide behind the Jews and they created, they took over Palestine and created the illegal state of Israel. And there you go. I mean, I would say research it.
Well, no, I have read a lot of the history, and I know a lot of the people who have been through the ruling class of Israel were actually considered terrorists before Israel had even become a state. And the Western world pretty much looked the other way, and a lot of it had to do with sympathy, for them coming out of World War II and all the history there.
Well, I would suggest watch the documentary Greatest Story Never Told. It's 6 hours long, but if you really want to know the story of World War II and what really happened, it's called Greatest Story Never Told. I highly, highly recommend it. So in my art, you'll see that I use a big Z right over the top of the Star of David, and that's to show how Zionism has overtaken Judaism and hides behind it, though. But there's a lot of Jews that are they're Zionists just from being forced into it or pressure from other Jews. So it's a really odd sort of thing when you got a whole group of people that are being identified as Zionists, and you can't criticize their political, Israel is the most racist, separatist, genocidal state, illegal state that this planet has really ever seen. They're over there bombing civilians that have been forced into an open-air prison camp called Gaza. This is all the people that were actually living there for thousands of years. And I can't criticize it. It's really sad.
There was a protest, a demonstration held by thousands of Hasidic Jews protesting against Zionism, and what was going on in Israel. So there's definitely a difference, and I think a lot of people tend to interpret the term Zionism and how it's discussed as something that's purely anti-Semitic, and it's definitely not.
I haven't been afraid to illustrate what I feel about that now, but I have been heavily criticized by it. I have been called anti-Semitic and a Nazi lover. I mean, it goes on and on. It's just, and even the Anti-Defamation League, which is the pit bull of, the Zionists, has a whole page on just me, where that I'm labeled as an extremist, which is a little scary, that I'm back in America. It's a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because I was living in Europe for 10 years, and I did get harassed by the secret police there.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Has your work ever gotten you in any trouble?
Big trouble. Yeah. In fact, there was one magazine wanted to do an article about me. It was called Dangerous Art. And he already thought he was going to name it Dangerous Art. And then when I was telling him what I was having trouble with in Sweden, I said, man, this is serious stuff. I have awakened, I'm in trouble. I could actually go to prison for art that I do. That's how bad it is. They have laws in there. You can't talk about certain things in Europe. And so I'm happy to be back in America, but I'm still pretty upset and frightened about the people I wake with these illustrations, because they do pervade the internet, they do circulate, and they end up on all the sites that they hate, so I'm front and center in this whole fight.
Hey, have you ever had any exhibitions, any gallery representation?
Not really. It's all the stuff I'm doing is digital and it kind of designed smaller format. I have printed out lithographs of them that were signed, and I would like to eventually do an art show. Right now, what I'm working on is my first book, and it'll be coming out in November. 1st of November, or even before that. And it's just called The Political Art of David Dees. And it's 112 pages, full color landscape format, which is it's horizontal. And it's gonna kick ass, because it's gonna be 7 years of illustrations. I've picked out the top 100 pieces. So it's almost like a greatest hits album.
That must have been hard, picking out your top 100 pieces.
It was tough, but I didn't put some of the harder issue stuff. I thought that, this will be a good coffee table book, and children are going to be looking at this. So I did pull stuff that was hardcore. I do have some hardcore stuff. There's some pretty bloody stuff, and there's some pretty controversial stuff I had plenty of good pieces without having to get there. I figured the second one I'm going to unload the really hard stuff. So the first one's going to be not softcore, but it's certainly not hard. It's stuff that gets you in trouble.
Yeah, well,
which is the most fun to do.
So I noticed on Facebook, it appears you have quite the fondness for cats.
Sure. Stage name when I play out, I play Irish music and country music, and my stage name is Catman D. And I love cats a lot. I've got thousands of pictures of cats, but not just any cat. It's got to be a very funny cat, very interesting cat. Yeah. And there are a lot of other cat people out there.
I can go either way. I like cats. I think they're pretty low maintenance. Your book is coming out.
It'll be out before November, but it's going to be ready for sure for the 1st of November. And just watch the rents.com site for it. It'll be all over. You'll see it. Rents there. You'll see it on InfoWars. You'll see it on secretsofthefed.com. Those are the 3 main sites, or davidike.com. Those would be the main sites where I'll be advertising it. Okay. But be sure and pick one up. It won't be too expensive.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think we covered it.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your time with us. How's the weather out there in Oregon?
It's absolutely beautiful. We've had a couple of months of just blue skies. I live in the part of Oregon where it's not the wet area. It's a valley off the coast. Gets I don't know how it does it. It's just lots of sun. Sure. Lots of sun, 90 degrees every day, and very dry and gorgeous.
Wow.
Windy.
It's not what I think about Oregon.
No, me neither. I had to be convinced to move here. I never thought Oregon would have this sort of climate, but this one area it's a little pocket, it's a little jewel. Nice. Don't let anybody know about it, because we don't want any crowds in here.
All right, well, I'll edit this part out of the interview. Okay. All right, well, look, thanks a lot for talking with me today. I appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing your work out there, and keep an eye out for that book.
All right, watch rents.com. That's where you'll see, or my website, which is dees.com. That would be DDEES.com. Or, of course, you can always email me at davodees@hotmail.com. DAVODEES@hotmail.com.
All right.
Cool, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. Take care. Well, that was a fascinating conversation with artist David Dees. I hope you'll be joining us for future podcasts. This is Eric Wicks for TheMetaModern. Thanks for listening.